X Coaster. This is the only Maurer SkyLoop in North America, and with Magic Springs within driving distance of my house, well, barely, this put Magic Springs on my map, and I prioritized visiting sooner rather than later. However, is this coaster really worth that long trip to Magic Springs? Find out in this review. Again, X Coaster is the only Maurer SkyLoop in North America. Opening in 2006, this was a strange choice as the premier thrill coaster for a park that seems to prefer getting its coasters secondhand. But at a modest price, X Coaster did open with the tallest inversion in the world, something that the ride still says, even though this has been surpassed by many other coasters. Despite being the second SkyLoop to open, none except the extended version Abysmo opened until 2011, when more were added to parks in Europe and China. Still, only 10 are in operation today, and none have been built since 2015. 10 is still more than the premier ride Skyrocket 2 model, which is a similar layout but launched, though these are located at more mainstream American parks, so it feels like they are a lot more common. Magic Springs itself is a really neat family amusement and water park in Hot Springs, Arkansas. This park is relatively isolated from other major parks, but it is on the way if one is driving from Texas to parks further on in Missouri or onwards to Ohio. The park itself has a few thrill rides, 4 roller coasters, and a collection of kiddie and family rides. With a location on a hill and around a lake, the park looks really nice. Though with confusing paths and some ride closures, the amusement side does feel like there was not a cohesive plan when it comes to the overall theming and appearance. Before my visit, I was worried that this coaster would soon become defunct, as it seems that Magic Springs is just not too committed to the actual amusement side of their park. At the beginning of the 2025 season, they did retire a coaster in Arkansas Twister, which seemed to have a minimum rider requirement and was located awkwardly next to the water park. Many guests and staff from my visit were expressing regrets on its closure, so it seems unlikely that the park will want to retire another ride soon, especially as X Coaster has an incredible visual presence, as you can see it from most places throughout the park. Though few guests at this family park are actually brave enough to ride X Coaster, so I'm sure they make zero money actually keeping it open. They did try to sell it over 10 years ago, but I hear this sale fell through with how X Coasters welded together, making relocating this coaster more expensive than it's worth. So it will likely finish out its days at Magic Springs, however long that might be. Operations at this park can be slow, especially with one-train operations on all of their roller coasters. And since each ride operator has to verbally explain the ride rules and regulations, which is a bit strange, but kind of a neat quirk of the park once you really get used to it. Dispatches really only proved sluggish on Big Bad John, as that was a more popular family coaster and for some reason they could not check the restraints super quickly. X Coaster had virtually no wait, and the operators will let you stay in the station and simply ride again if no one else is in the queue line. So I easily got 3 laps on this coaster early in the morning on both my days at this park. As for if you need to rope drop it, when I showed up 15 minutes after the park opened, the ride operator was harassing me, saying that no one ever chooses to come to X Coaster first. The park starts scanning guests in at 11 a.m. when they open, and understandably, most go and get a locker or head to the water park. The only ride that I saw with a line on the amusement side was Plummet Summit around 1 p.m. So if you don't mind getting wet, I'd actually recommend knocking that one out first, though it did not have much of a line by 1 p.m. on my second day in the park. They also start testing the roller coasters at 11, so most rides, including X Coaster, may not open until a bit later. So there literally is no reason to actually run over here sooner, right at rope drop. I would recommend trying to get to this coaster sooner rather than later on your visit, as it seems very prone to valleying. Although I did not get to experience it valleying myself, which looks actually kind of fun, I did see it valley on 3 separate occasions over my 2 days at the park. And that was with only spending about 4 to 5 hours in the actual amusement side of the park. If this happens, it just requires that they check the ride and the attendants would wait outside at the bottom of the queue, so maybe a 20 to 30 minute delay until the ride was back up and running. The ride also has a maximum rider requirement of 4 riders, despite the small train seating just 12 or 10 riders since the front row is blocked off for all guests now. But only 4 riders will be admitted onto the ride at a time. This seems to be as more guests will make it much more prone to valleying, so the limit is understandable. However, there are very few guests actually riding X Coaster, so this crazy limit really wasn't an issue as far as forming a line or otherwise making it difficult to actually ride. As for seat placement, near the front was the best, as I enjoyed my second row rides much more than those closer to the back. The front gets a bit of extra hang time on the lift hill and inversion, as well as goes all the way up the vertical spike on the final swing. The front row is likely by far the best, but again, you're not allowed to sit there. The right side was also a lot better for me, as I got a bit of extra whip through that inversion. As for the restraint, there is a seatbelt, but the operators only visually check this was on you, so it can be a bit tight if you want it to be. The main restraint is an arm that comes across your waist, similar to Timberliner trains on Gravity Group's wood coasters. This is a wildly free restraint for a coaster designed to give you oodles of hang time. Furthermore, unlike Mind Blower, the attendants will not staple you, as they will tell you the restraint will tighten during the ride. On my first few rides, I did not notice this, but on a few of my later ones where I held on to the lap bar, as that normally helps keep it up to maximize airtime, I did notice it significantly tighten into me during the valleys. So, enjoy dangling in the air and keep your hands up and off the bar on this ride if you want it to remain loose. After leaving the station, you quickly go up the vertical lift hill. Honestly, this lift hill is so fast that it makes the comparable Skyrocket 2 launch seem almost unnecessary. Vertical lifts are fun, and the turn into an inversion helps give you so much hang time, especially near the front as you go through this part super slowly. It is awesome having your upper half free on a prolonged inversion like this, and looking out into the surrounding trees is an incredible visual as well. Once you release from the lift hill, you're flipped back up right to complete the inversion. If you're on the right side of the train, this has a little bit extra whip to it as you're inverted back to normal, which is quite fun, especially given your height off the ground. Then you continue inverting so you're back upside down. Maurer calls this the 360 degrees corkscrew, but essentially you just went into an upside down heartline roll that is slanted slightly downwards. After being inverted, you drop down to the ground. So the end of this element is really more like a dive loop, with the drop being vertical for only a little bit and the pull out being a bit long. There's a good amount of positive G's that you'll experience at the bottom, and this is where that restraint can become tighter from those forces. Then you travel all the way up the lift hill, with the very front car starting to tilt slightly into that first inversion, before plummeting down backwards. You can feel being airborne on the vertical part for a bit, which is awesome. but vertical spikes don't do a lot for me, and I feel the same way about Mr. Freeze at Six Flags Over Texas. But this is still a well above average element, especially for a coaster this size, and likely is just as good, if not better, than the spike on Mr. Freeze. You then rock back up the dive, twisting some towards the top, which makes it feel like the reverse launch on a Skyrocket 2 clone, where you stall out in a similar position. Then you go through the station again before catching on the brakes halfway up the vertical spike. Your car will move slightly up before catching a chain and being brought quickly back down. If you miss these brakes, you will valley and continue to rock back and forth until you come to a complete stop in the station. With the frequency of this, it seems kind of unfortunate that the operators do not have a way to stop you once you're going especially slowly in the station, as it does add a minute or two of having to wait for that full and complete stop. Overall, how good is X Coaster? This is a forceful coaster with a great setting and enjoyable elements. For me, it is easily better than a traditional Skyrocket 2 clone, which is similar in appearance to the Maurer SkyLoop, as the hang time and vertical spike are way better on X Coaster. With the ability to ride this coaster many times in a row, it also helps make it just that much more enjoyable, as capacity is normally an issue on these types of rides. I rank it right above Boardwalk Bullet at the Keeneland Boardwalk, which offers 2 solid drops, airtime pops throughout the ride, and enjoyable twists and turns, but which I just feel is flawed, as its on-again, off-again pacing, overall roughness, and strong positive G's in its valleys just makes it not as enjoyable of a coaster as maybe it could or should be, at least for me. I rank X Coaster right below Grizzly at King's Dominion, which offers a solid experience with a nice first drop, many airtime hills throughout the ride, and some good laterals on some of the turnarounds. Do you feel X Coaster is worth seeking out to ride? Would you like to see more of these Maurer SkyLoops at other parks? Let me know. And, as always, Kapkun Krap.